meeting. And happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody.
I'm ready.
A couple of days, yes, you are. A couple of days from now, my wife just came home with some corned beef. We had a nice corned beef sandwich in honor of St. Patrick's Day, so we're a few days early. Do we have any guests today? I didn't see anybody. Okay. Board of Directors remain the same. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Same with Special Interest Advisors. Same with their volunteers. And today's meeting, we'll start off with our business meeting as usual, and then JJ will do a presentation on all-in-one computers, pros and cons. We're just about to change the date here. Another month, it'll be 38 years growing. JJ started his club when he was 22, I think. 15. Okay, all-in-one computers today. Next month we have elections, and after we're finished with that, we allocate some time to Ask the Guru, sharing questions, sharing information, general discussion. May 8th, we'll continue our discussion of file management. We started last month talking about how you can organize your email files. There had been some questions prior to that about making this a more expanded subject that would talk about file management in general. We all have lots of files we deal with, not just emails, but also our copies of documents and photos and music and on and on and on. And it would be a good opportunity for us to talk about best practices in file management. And then we'll see where we go from there. July 10th picnic is uncertain. I talked to Fred a little bit earlier today to ask if there was any possibility that the library would be opening up for meetings. So, for example, for a June meeting, would we be able to possibly get in there for June or May? And he was a little pessimistic. He said right now that there's nothing on the agenda to open up, so we'll have to take that month by month. The July 10th picnic, of course, would normally have been held in State Bank of the Lakes. I believe I mentioned earlier that I did talk with Allison over at State Bank of the Lakes about their meeting room and what was going on there. She said at the time I spoke with her, which was about a month ago, she said they were not letting anyone use the meeting room, but she would let me know when there was some clearer direction and when there was an opportunity. So we'll see if July 10th we would have access to that meeting room. If not, then we can talk about alternatives, perhaps an outdoor picnic if the weather's nice, we can socially distance and so on, or just take the month off, but we'll deal with that as we get a little closer. Okay, reports. Bobby, anything to report?
No.
Okay, Judy?
Unmute, Judy. Unmute, Judy.
She's run off with the money.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, $2,730 in the bank.
Okay, thank you. Membership. JJ, how are we doing on membership?
Membership, we're doing good. Our last two members were from our friend from Milwaukee, which is David Gish, and Dean. Dean's not here today. Other than that, Sue and Phil joined us also last couple of months. And we're holding at around about 42 members, supposedly. Somewhere thereabouts.
Good, good. Thank you. Publicity, Linda, I saw your release for Comcast. And Now, Linda, in the material you put out for publicity, the contact number you give them is JJ's, right?
Yeah. What did it say? info@lcac.org. Yeah, I just go whatever was.
Right. And I believe you also have a phone number in there, and I think those both connect to JJ. The reason I asked the question
Yeah.
is I was then going to ask JJ if he's had any calls or questions or emails from anybody outside the club who might have seen the publicity that Linda's putting out.
No, I have not. That is my old phone number used for the hotline. That's my voice over internet phone.
Yeah.
And if anybody calls me, it calls my iPhone also. So, no, I have not had any phone calls from anybody.
Okay, well, that's some work to do to try to get the word out. Newsletter.
Phil,
Yes, sir.
this is Fred. I've got a question about publicity.
Sure.
Do we are we connected with the activities board at CLC and the other schools in the county?
Linda, I don't think so. No.
Nothing with CLC. No.
Okay, it's just something you might consider.
Oh, okay. Well, I've been sending the emails to that radio station. I can't, it bounces it back to me. Matt Kessler, I'll have to somehow get a hold of him. I can't send the emails. I don't know what's going on.
If anybody has any new connections, how about letting Linda know about it so she can get connected with them?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Thanks, Fred.
Yeah.
I'm also working on a letter and some business cards to send out to some of the local senior centers and social assisted living homes,
Right.
to see if we have any seniors that are looking to get involved in computer and technology.
Okay.
That's something that's in the works right now.
Great. Okay, thank you. Programs. We talked about programs a few minutes ago. So, but while we're on the subject, does anybody have a hot button that they'd like to throw in the hat for a future program?
Well, I'm working on, like today I'm doing all-in-one, but I'm also working on laptops versus computers and computers versus tablets. So that's something that I'm working on down the line, but when that comes about. And I'm also working on a Zoom 102, which is basically how to host Zoom. I did a Zoom presentation a couple of weeks ago for a sorority group, Zoom 101, and I also did one a couple of months back for the Waukegan Senior Center, and a few people had interest in Zoom 102, which is basically how to host a Zoom program or a Zoom meeting.
Great. Okay, thank you.
You skipped newsletter.
Oh, sorry, newsletter.
Michael's not here today, but I published about 75% of the newsletter. And every month I'm coming up with a lot of links, and I'm getting a lot of Q&As. And we're always looking for somebody to write an article, a little short article. If you get a new toy, let us know about it. For those of you who read the newsletter this month, you see how I came up with my name. And anything, my cat, when she gets her paws on the computer, she used to like to write an article. So a lot of stuff you see in there by Jasmine Blue, that's written by my kitten.
Does she want to be an officer in the club, JJ?
I will ask her, but the only time I ask her something, she just meows back at me.
Okay, old business, none. New business, we've got officer elections coming up in April. So let's spend a little bit of time going through that. Let's go back in time. In 2017, we talked about changing the way we elect officers or directors Instead of going through elections once a year, the suggestion was maybe do it every 2 years, maybe look at other ways of doing the elections and so on. We put together a group of 3 volunteers, headed up by Liz Barnett and with David Carlson and Bob Pocola. And they spent quite a bit of time talking it over and looking at options and so on. They made a presentation to the members in November of 2017. Putting out 3 options, actually 5 options, timing and also the type of elections. We voted on it in January, and this is what we came up with. The changes to a previous process are in red on this screen. So the term of office was moved from 1 year to 2 years. The president, who previously had been elected by the general membership, would now be elected by the members of the board from its members. So we would vote for 7 folks to be on the board, and they would get together and choose the president from among themselves. Going down a little bit, we said nominations for the board will be made at 2 meetings preceding the election, and shame on me, I let February go by without bringing that up. But we do have March. We had said we weren't going to spend time nominating people in April unless we didn't have at least 7 people to fill all the board positions. So when I finish with this, I'd like to get a discussion going about the best way to do nominations, given that we have at best half the members here today, and the other half are not comfortable with Zoom or just choose not to attend. Now, this is the other thing that caught my eye when I took a look at it. Down here it says it will be made every even numbered year, because we put this in effect in 2018 and nobody anticipated the pandemic at that time. So we just said, okay, in 2020 would be elections, in 2022 and so on. And when we got to 2020, we weren't meeting. We had just get swallowed up with the pandemic, and we took a shortcut and just said, well, if the officers would volunteer to continue for another year, we'll just leave everything the way it was. So now the question on the table is, do we have an election this April for officers for the remaining 1 year of that 2-year term, and then plan to have elections again in 2022? Or do we want to just delete the language of even numbered years and just say every 2 years we'll have an election? So that's a question on the table. Let me stop sharing my screen for a minute so we can see each other and ask for your thoughts. Anybody?
Bobby has her hand up.
Bobby, yes.
Is there anybody else that wants to be on the board? That would be my first question. Since we've
Sure.
sort of been on for a while, I have no problem with Zoom meetings. Getting to every meeting is perhaps going to be more challenging, but I don't know. But we haven't had any meetings for so long. I'm not sure. We're exactly sure when we're going to get together. So unless there's somebody that would like to be on the board, my suggestion is we don't bother, in nominations. We can't nominate from somebody here if there's nobody here that wants to say they'll be on. And mostly these are the same people that have been coming to our meetings for the entire year.
Or we should seize the opportunity and nominate all the people who aren't here.
That'll
I
teach them.
recall I was nominated for the board while I was in Florida, but I think Robin made that comment to me one time that you go down to Florida and they nominate you for an officer position when you can't defend yourself. JJ.
I agree with Bobby. I think we should just put it off the next year.
I
Okay.
agree.
Me too.
Me too.
B3.
Gee, I made up this big
If the current
slide.
members are willing to continue, I think that's fine. And
Okay.
then that way we don't have to go through amending the bylaws again to take out the specification of the even numbered years.
All right.
Okay, all in at the bottom of your screen, if you're on the tablet, there's a reaction thing. All in favor, raise your hand in reactions.
What are we raising our hand to? Agreeing to the current board continuing?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
What do we have here?
Go down to reactions, raise your hand.
Oh, reaction, oh, yeah, okay.
Pull up move your cursor down, your command bar pops up.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it went down.
Mhm.
I think we have general consensus.
Yeah, look,
You want clap or thumbs up?
Whichever. Put a hand up.
Okay. How about all opposed? Anybody opposed?
Anybody opposed? Quick reaction, take your hand down.
Does it go down?
Yeah, it
It doesn't go down.
You go back to reactions and you can lower your hand.
Yeah, go down back to reaction, you lower your hand.
Oh,
Or
I
you, or you
Don't
can,
see it.
or you can just speak up. Anybody opposed?
No.
No.
So far, nobody opposing.
Oh, good. All
Mhm.
right. Well, that's easy. Okay, thank you, folks.
Now that everybody knows where the hand is at, when there's any questions during the presentations or Q&A, you know how
Yeah.
to raise your hand.
Yes. Yeah.
Very good.
Yep.
This makes it simple.
Yeah.
Gary, Tom, and I do some of the meetings with the APCUG and a few other clubs. And when, yeah, the board's got hands up and thumbs up too. She doesn't know which one is which. But it makes it easy for the host or the presenter to see if anybody has questions. If you have more than people that fill your screen, the person that puts their hand up will pop to the top of the screen, so it's easy to see for the presenter or the host to call out that person. So everybody knows where the reaction's at now, right?
Right.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, let me share my screen. We'll finish up what we were talking about. Okay, well, there we go. But that's the rules of the road for elections. So in February of 2022, we'll start soliciting nominations for the next 2 years after that. Okay, we talked about the term of office. We talked about election process. We skipped that. And we were going to do nominations, but we skipped that. So with that, read our newsletter. It's great.
Hello, this is Fred.
Yes,
I've got a question or a suggestion.
sure.
That's our bylaws we've been looking at?
Yes,
Okay, it's got a whole list of things. It says the board is responsible for these things.
yes.
Shouldn't that read the president is responsible
No.
for most of them?
President overseas,
Yeah.
Well,
not exactly responsible.
okay. All right.
This is, yeah, no, it's, if there's anything that, I mean, I'm sort of a master of ceremonies, but if it has to do with club decisions or money or spending or policies or whatever, it's a group decision.
What about when we have our meetings?
It's a group decision.
What, I'm sorry, I don't understand.
When
What was-
do we have our meetings and when they get changed? The board does that?
No, well, I schedule meetings. We shoot for the second Saturday of every month. Back when Liz was helping us out with the library, we were getting an arm wrestling with the library. Other people wanted library meeting rooms. So we sometimes would be the third Saturday, but the 10th was always the second Saturday of every month. So that's what we've been doing for a long time.
Well,
Oops.
that, maybe I'm being too particular, but we don't need to get into that kind of specifics. But it implies that if we have a change in meeting time, that the board has to make some decision.
It can be addressed by the president or whoever's contacting the library, but basically here again would be the program access between the program director and the president to decide or make the final decision.
Yeah, absent any concerns, and I'm not aware that any concerns have been voiced, we would normally, when we got together, we would start the meeting at 12:30 when we got together. I just moved it half an hour to 1 o'clock to let people have lunch beforehand. But is that a problem, or I'm not sure what the problem is.
No, I don't think it's a problem. It's just a concern.
Okay. Well, you obviously have an itch to scratch here. What would you suggest as a change to current practice?
I don't know, maybe if we look at that second item on the bylaws.
Okay. Yes. Well,
Duties of the board.
I don't have the whole set of bylaws here. I just have the one page.
The duties of the board.
Yeah, this is just all I have here is just the election piece. Oh, the duties of the board. I'm sorry. Yes. Rescheduling of general meetings.
My question is, does the board meet and make the decisions on these things? Or should it say that the president and the officer involved should make decisions?
I don't have any problem with the wording. We have gotten together upon occasion to, for example, approve the change in the board directives, instructions. We got together to talk about hardware. There was a question of buying some hardware for LCAC. We talked about location and responsibility for group property. We got together after one of our meetings, the board did. So we don't have a regular schedule of board meetings just because people go off to lunch normally after the meetings that we have, and it's difficult to get us all together. But I'm not aware of anything that we've not addressed according to this that we should have. Other than I changed the meeting time by half an hour.
Rescheduling a meeting here again, as I said again, it would be up to who's ever in contact with the meeting facilities. If they get a notification that the meeting has to be changed and they are notified of a different date available, I think it just be up to the contact person, which is normally our president and maybe our program director. Just go ahead and make that decision. And they are two members of the board. It would be kind of hard to contact everybody to make a decision. Yeah, we got to change that date because, like I said, in most cases, if we have a different date, maybe that's the only date available to have a meeting that month. And if that we have to close that date down, in a certain period of time, I think it may be counterproductive to go out and call a board meeting and try to schedule a board meeting with everybody.
Well, but Fred raises a good point, and
yes.
It's good.
What about changing?
Good to call our attention to this, to say, okay, are we in fact doing this as a group, or is one or another of us making decisions? I'm sorry, somebody?
That should be changed to here again, sort of directed to the two people or people who basically involved in studying the meeting, not the whole board.
About just changing the word from shall, may include the following.
Okay, well, okay, let me take a look at that. Board.
I just had the extreme pleasure of reading through the proxy statement for a couple of mutual funds that are re-electing their trustees, and they and most business boards of directors that I'm familiar with have an executive committee, which usually consists of the chairman and two other members of the board who act in the boards, on the board's behalf between their meetings. It would seem to me that Phil as the president and whoever was the contact person with the library, and in the case of this past year, just trying to deal with scheduling around the pandemic, maybe we need to include in the board of directors a statement that the president and the officer most directly affected can act as an executive committee in the absence or without needing to convene the entire board.
Yes, I agree with that. That's the way my camera club works. They have executive committees for about everything. They have like 20 different committees. But anyhow, yes, I agree.
Okay. But, okay, but I appreciate your comments, Fred. It's something we haven't looked at a lot. It just kind of got in a habit and off we went. So, thank you. Okay. So, read our newsletter. It's great. As JJ mentioned, he's got a whole bunch of new links in there. He had a bunch in the last newsletter as well. There's an article in there that describes 10 free software programs you might find useful. And JJ obviously is including a picture of his younger brother here.
I was getting ready to ask you who that was.
But he's got a great story in there about the early days of Atari. And obviously, he had some tough duty there. He had a nice young lady standing next to you there from the other picture. That looked like it was a nice conference. Looked like he had a lot going on there. So anyway, read his story, and I think you'll find it interesting. But he and Mike have been pulling articles from other newsletters, from APCUG. People are turning in some. There's a lot of good stuff in there, so please take time to read it.
If you have any comments or questions or articles, please send them to the editor.
And happy birthday to Phil and Captain James T. Kirk.
And don't forget, he was born in Riverside, Iowa, which is a real town near Iowa City, which I've visited. And they have a model spaceship there that looks pretty dilapidated.
Well, the actual birthday, of course, is for William Shatner, who William, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right, right.
Who played the role. He was born in March. Was born in March. Still going. Okay. Do I hear a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
To adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Okay, we'll adjourn and give. I'll stop sharing, and we'll give JJ a chance to get set up and get on with the presentation about all-in-one computers and the pros and cons. JJ, the floor is yours.
Okie dokie.
Yes.
Okie dokie. Everybody here? Everybody see a full screen?
Yes.
All blue?
Yes.
Okay. Appreciate everybody mutes their microphone at this point in time. If you have any questions during the presentation, you unmute yourself. And since everybody knows how to raise their hand right now, if you have any questions during our Q&A session, please raise your hand. We will ascertain your questions. All right? And let's see if my computer works.
Is my hand raised?
I can't see it because I got both screens. All right. Presentation will begin shortly. Going back before computers here again, we all had different words for things that are computer related nowadays. Things have changed quite a bit. So use this little humor, give us a smile. Talking about memories. maybe it was something that you lost with age. I'm doing more and more of that every day. Back in the days, an application was for employment. I filled out an application to get a new job, right? A program was something we watched on TV, like Uncle Milty and Red Skelton Show. A cursor, oh wow. I don't think we cursed as much back in the days as we do now, but here again, it was used for profanity. Keyboards, I think that was on a piano, right? I know my Aunt Carrie had a piano. She even had a player piano. The web, that was that thing that a spider put in the corner of your house or on the side of your house or whatever. So we always knock those down. What do we use to knock down a web? A broom, right? Okay. Virus was the flu. Virus is not COVID-19 or something that this other guy talked about last year. CD, we open those up at the bank. Hard drive, that was a long road trip, especially when the kids are always saying, are we there yet? A mouse pad, that's where the mouse lives, or actually where we catch them at sometimes. And if you had a floppy 3.5 inch, you just hope nobody found out about it. So that was back in the days when we all talked about computer technology was something different. Today we're going to do an LCACA premiere presentation. I don't know why I call it premiere, but it is the presentation. So we're going to go to step by step talking about all-in-one computers. We're going to give you the pros and cons of all-in-one computers. And this is by me, J.J. Johnson, U.S. and retired. And as Phil said earlier, we're going to be celebrating 38 years next month. 38 years. What's your favorite computer? Do you own a different type of computer, like a micro workstation, all-in-one workstation, small format computer, or a tower? Well, today we're not going to talk about the micro workplace or computer. We're not going to talk about the small format, and we're not going to talk about the towers. All right? We're going to talk about an all-in-one computer. These computers are designed for safety. Computer. They took all of that stuff and crammed it into a little bitty space. So we're going to take a look at what's new out there and what's available. This is the new HP computer. You're going to see that it's neat and nice, and it's one of the all-in-one computers that's available.
The new Pavilion All-in-One brings progressive design to the desktop. With the perfect balance of performance, practicality, and aesthetics. Our thought process began with a focus on where this device would live and how it would be utilized in different spaces. With that in mind, we incorporated lifestyle accents and designed this complete all-in-one for the experiences it brings to the home. And with touchscreen capabilities, it brings intuitive interaction to productivity and play. We added a beautiful tethered speaker cloth that seamlessly integrates this machine into any home set. It transmits lifelike sound with engineered audio that's more refined and incredibly immersive. We've merged flat and curved shapes to achieve a sculptural appearance that's both inviting and sophisticated. The open frame stand is cast of durable aluminum and has a satin finish for a craftsman's touch. When you look at the front of the display, you see a stunning edge-to-edge flush glass that's perfect for entertainment. A cutting-edge webcam and mic turn off when not in use to provide peace of mind. And we've added more storage and memory, so you can hold on to more content, like digital photos and videos. With well-positioned ports, it keeps your space clear of clutter. Equipped with the industry-leading performance of the latest Intel Core processor built right in, you can stay productive, connected, and entertained. The adjustable display has IPS technology that gives you a wider range of viewing angles so that the entire family can stream content or video chat together. With its alluring form factor and slender profile, this desktop can blend in seamlessly to its surroundings or be a centerpiece. Experience the complete performance and progressive design of the new Pavilion All-in-One.
That's a great looking computer. Very good looking computer, but do you want one or do you really need one? All-in-one computers. I gotta shut down my echoing. There we go. Okay. Are you thinking about purchasing one of these computers? You know, they're very space saving and they're all-in-one and everything's easy to use. And my mouse is not working. All-in-one PCs are becoming very, very popular and increasing population for many people. But they do have their pros and cons. All-in-ones are also known as computers, as we say, okay, and they're designed in a complete cabinet space with a monitor and an entire PC behind them. The system usually consists of a CPU. I don't know why I'm getting the echoing here. The memory, RAM, and storage. And the storage could be a hard drive or SSD, or you can have both of them. The monitors for these all-in-one computers usually range somewhere between 20 to 32 inches. The reason for owning one, okay? Monitors are integrated, like I said before, and everything's inside one case. They have port processors and other peripherals. The only thing outside of this unit is usually the keyboard and the mouse. And one of the things about these computers, they are energy efficient and easy to maintain. Very compact in size. Compact in size because, as I said, the UPS, volume controls, memory cards, and audio jacks are usually designed inside the case to the side or the back. Unlike a bulky desktop computer, which has a large case which you have to move around. So it makes these easy to pick up and move from space to space if you need to move it around. They have great monitors. Monitors here are high resolution, as I mentioned before. They could be 20 to 32 inches wide. Okay, and most of them are high res, and they are equal or better to some desktop computers. Some of these all-in-one computers even feature a curved monitor. The CPUs is usually Intel or AMD Ryzen. The AMD Ryzen, which is the most popular right now, is a 9, but you may get a lower depending on the price. And the Intel cores are Core 9, which is the highest, but here again, you may end up with an i5 or i7. And generally, they come with 8 gigs of RAM, or 16 gigs of RAM. Either way, you can upgrade it if you need to. This is one of the things to consider when you're looking to buy one is which one do you want, the Intel, AMD chip, or how much RAM you want in it. Storage, like I said, could be SSD or HD. Usually they'll come with, the newer ones will come with 512 gigs of boot up drive, which is your regular hard drive space. And the newer ones are coming with SSDs, anywhere from 512 gigs to 1 terabit. And some of the newer ones also have a secondary drive, which is normally a HD drive. And that will usually be about 1 terabit. So you got plenty of storage for, space for storage in these newer computers. Easy accessibility or availability. That should be accessibility. Touch screens and price not too high. Well, touch screens all depends on your workflow. Do you really need a touch screen or a touch screen? In most cases, the problem with touch screens is the distance between where you are sitting in your arm reach means you got to reach over your keyboard to touch the screen. And actually, they're not very popular. It's better to have a touch screen on a tablet or a laptop, right? Not available on desktops. You won't find too many desktops that'll have a touch screen. Touch screens are not touch screens, really. That's the question. And 100% of these computers are not necessarily or use a touch screen. Like I said, it all depends on your workflow and how you use it. If you have a Mac computer, you'll note that most Mac computers do not have touch screens. It's mostly on these new PCs coming out. As I talked about energy efficiency, these are the most efficient computers in the market. Only power is to the monitor, and that power to the monitor is actually that little brick that you get that you plug in and to the back of the monitor, like most of your devices. What I'm saying here is that the power supply is not built into the computer itself, it's in that little power brick that's usually sitting on the floor, okay, being that is external to the monitor. Unlike the desktop PC, where you may have multiple power supplies, because in most cases, depending on the size of the PC and what you're using, you may have a lot of different peripherals that need extra power. So they are larger than that you will find in a all-in-one computer. Webcams. As you saw in the video, that was a neat little webcam that popped up in the back. So the webcams are normally built in. And the thing about webcams, they have the perfect angle for zooming. And if you attended my one-on-one Zoom presentation, you'll see what I talked about as far as camera angle. If you had a PC, regular desktop PC, you probably have to end up buying an extra webcam to use your Zoom or internet viewing. And like I said, the nice thing about these webcams is where you sit on top of the monitor, they're easy, they're eye level, right where you want it at. The resolution on these webcams is somewhere around about 720 DPI, which is the same as laptop. And laptops don't have great webcams. So when you're looking to buy one, you want to check the specs and make sure you get at least a 1080 DPI or better specs for your webcam. Wireless connectivity. Most all-in-one computers do have built-in Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. And what we use that for is connecting to our mouse and keyboard, which we know is most of the time is wireless. And we can use it to connect to external devices such as printers and external speakers. This feature may be missing on some desktops, so you can add it. In most laptops, we know that the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth are normally available. The built-in speakers. In the video that we saw, the speakers are up front. And these speakers, depending on the system, can be a little tainty. They're not the best, and they're adequate at most. But if you want, they're not equal to a home-type, theater-type system. But in most cases, if you want better sound, you can add your own speakers to these. But here again, speakers are built in, makes it convenient. Ports. Most these all-in-one computers have USB 2 or USB 3, USB 3 being the newest. Some of the newer features may even have USB-C, and they have the HDMI. But here again, when you buy this, make sure you check the specs. The thing about most of these ports, as you notice also in the video, that they are located in the back, in which it may be hard to reach. And some of the ports are used for headphones and plugging in extra peripherals. But like I said, most of the new peripherals are Wi-Fi, so you can connect it during wireless. The HDMI is usually located on the back, and one of the good things about HDMI ports nowadays, it allows you to connect up additional monitors so you can have a 2-monitor system. But here again, that all depends on your workflow, whether or not you're going to need 2 different monitors. TV tuners. Some of the more advanced all-in-one computers may have a TV tuner, but this makes it a little bit more expensive if you get this feature incorporated into it. If you want to watch TV, you can always do it on the web and watch your Netflix and Hulu, HBO, Disney Plus on the web. But if you want an additional tuner feature, you can always go out and purchase a Chromecast, which plugs into the back of your computer. And I have one hooked up to one of my monitors up here where I can watch TV. But this is also an additional cost if you want the advantage of having a TV tuner incorporated into your computer. Less cables. One of the things about desktops is you got to plug in everything. You got to plug in the monitor, you got to plug in the speakers. Some of the older desktop computers may have Mises, mouses, and cables that you got to wire. And this is no fun, especially because you got to crawl around the back of the computer and do this. But for an all-in-one computer, this is all incorporated into the back of the case. The mouse is wireless, keyboard wireless, and there's no power brick. Like I said, the power brick is that little box on the floor that you just plug in the power in the back of the computer. So therefore, there's no more fun. Desktop all-in-one computers makes it too easy. Now, when I crawl around the floor, this is what the back of my computer looks like. It's a jungle back there. And I try not to crawl back there as much as possible. Easy to move. Since it's all in one, everything's located in one case, makes it compact, less external parts, and very light. Now, when I say very light, it depends on the size of the monitor. As I said, the range between 20 and 32 inches. And these 32-inch computers can weigh up to about 40 pounds. So that doesn't make it very light. And not as mobile as a laptop. Are there any questions so far? Anybody have any questions? Nobody shaking their hand? Heads? Hands?
Oops, where is that?
You can open up your mic and talk. We'll go back to the presentation.
Well, it looks like how hard, you talked about having 2 hard drives and having memory. How hard is it to get inside the darn thing to do anything?
Not at all easy. And I'm going to cover that in the cons of this computer. They're not at all.
I'm sorry.
I have 2 all-in-one computers, and one of them went down on me about a year ago, and I had to take it to a service to get it fixed because I had no idea how to get into it.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump ahead of you, KJ.
No problem. That's why I stopped for questioning. Okay.
I
Any
have
more
a question.
questions?
Is there an Ethernet connection possibility?
Most of them do. They have Ethernet in back, but like I said, they also have Wi-Fi, so you can go Wi-Fi. But it all depends. Like I said, when you purchase one, look at the specs. All right. If you go into the store and look at one, look at the back and see if you have it. But like I said, most of them do have an Ethernet port in the back. And if you notice the one in the video, it had an Ethernet port in the back, and had a couple extra, more than mine, as far as USB ports. But like I said, it all depends on what size you get.
And that's what I just did for my wife's new laptop, which did not have an Ethernet port. But just in case we wanted to go wired, I bought her a USB A to multiple A with an Ethernet port at the end of that adapter. And so that was really fairly easy to get, and then installing it was nothing.
Yeah, I just bought a new iPad several months ago, and I know everything is wireless, but I bought a little dongle that plugs in the side that gives me an Ethernet port also.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, if you're looking to purchase one, as I said, look at the specs, look around, shop around. Any other questions?
I think one of the reasons that some of them come with a TV tuner built in is if, say, you're a college student or something in a dorm, it's handy to be able to just switch between your TV and your computer.
Yes, it is. Like I said, and if you don't have a TV tuner built in, you can also buy a Comcast. I just played around about a month or so. I bought one of those little new Comcast for, I think it was $49. And my second monitor, I can plug it directly into the HDMI port. I can sit here and watch TV. All right? All right, moving on.
I have one comment.
Go ahead.
I'm a real newbie as far as opening up my box. I'm more desktop publishing and typography and Adobe software. But I'm a trained editor, and so I don't know if you want to hear this or if anybody else does. What you mean is fewer.
Whoever dog's barking, please put your microphone off. Go ahead, Cynthia.
Okay, say fewer, not less. Because if you have fewer children, you have 3 children instead of 4. But if you have less children, they're missing parts of their legs or arms. So that's the difference between fewer and less. You have fewer cables, not less cables. And if you hate me for saying that, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
That's just a grammatical point for clarity. They don't mean the same.
All right. Anything else? All right. Back to, and we had questions. All right. And carrying on here again, let me go. The cons. Let me do something here right quick. I gotta stop sharing because my screen did not come up the way I wanted it to. All right. I'm still not where I want to be at. Okay. Cons, we'll do cons anyhow. All right, the cons. I lost my monitor. Okay, here we go. Purchasing price. Some of these desktop computers or all-in-one computers are more expensive, but like I said, it all depends on what size you get, whether it be a 20-inch or a 32-inch, or basically here, again, what you have inside. Repair, as someone mentioned before, they are very difficult to open up. Matter of fact, I have 2 all-in-one computers, and one, as I said, went down on me about a year ago. And I didn't really know how to get into this computer. Unlike desktop computers where you have a couple of screws in the back, you open up, pull off the side or whatever, you want to open up. So I needed a little bit of expert help. I mean, you can take it to Geek Squad and they're going to charge you an arm or a leg, and they're very costly. But I was able to take mine out to Zytec Computers and got a reasonable, like I said, he doesn't charge anything to look at it. And reasonably, he was able to open up a computer. He found out that I had a bad hard drive in it. So he put in the new hard drive. Actually, I had him take out the hard drive and put in an SSD drive. And I went from a smaller hard drive to a 1 terabit SSD drive. And he was able to download the software, because this is a special computer, and get it all back up and running for me. But other than that, as I said, they are difficult to repair, not something that you can take on yourself unless you have all the tools to do it. Part availability. You got to remember, these are what you see is what you get type computers. So therefore, when they build these computers, they are not intended to be selling spare parts for it. And in most cases, the parts are not available. And if they're sold, these extra parts for this computer, they're going to be at a very high price. That's why when you look at getting one of these computers, look at the specs, see what you want inside. And if you can't get it fixed, then it's time to get a new computer. These computers are normally not good for gaming. In most cases, with the RAM and the video card and the CPU, they are not very good high-end gaming machines. You can play the basic games with no problem, but the processor is a little too slow. So like I said, here again, look at specs. Longevity. Longevity has always been a question about any computer. How long is this computer going to last me? Well, when I looked this up and started researching this computer, they said the lifespan for these computers is usually between 3 to 5 years. Then you start looking for something different. As I said, there are limited upgrades. The only thing you can probably do, if anything, is maybe put in more RAM or maybe put in a larger hard drive. But that's about what you're limited to as far as upgrading. Specification. As I mentioned before, you must compromise as far as specifications. When you go out looking for one of these computers, what do you need the computer for? What are you going to use it for? How much of a processor you need? How much memory? How much storage? And what monitor size? Everything, all this you have to take in consideration before purchasing. Now, I'm going to say some of these computers are fairly cheap in price. You can probably find one for about $500 or $600 up to, and I'll show you the price a little bit later on, okay? But like I said, look around, research whether or not you need one. Unlike the desktop computer on the side, here again, video cards, you can change in a desktop computer. You might need a bigger heat sink because you put a larger CPU in it. You can always install more memory, which you also do in a all-in-one. Power supplies, as I mentioned, power supplies is generally that little brick that sits on the floor. Most all-in-one computers do not have a DVD burner or an optical drive. So therefore, you got to find some way of loading programs. Most programs nowadays are downloadable, or if you can put it on a flash drive and install it on your computer. And in hard drives, whether or not do you want a regular hard drive or SSD drive, that's interchangeable maybe on an all-in-one computer, but it was easy and interchangeable on a desktop computer. Assembly, basically here again, talk about configuration. You configure the hard drive, RAM, and processor, but all this is when you look at the specs of the machine. And I'm sort of repeating myself here again, upgrades are limited. You can only change the RAM and the drive, so that's a repeat of what I've been saying. Number of ports. When you buy a all-in-one computer, you have to look at the number of ports. As I said, you can hook up your Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is usually hooked up to your keyboard and mouse, but a lot of the new printers are also Wi-Fi, so you don't need a port for that. But if you need to hook them up, there's USB ports. Most of the USB ports are located on the back of this computer, as you saw in the video when I started out. You may find some located on the side. One of my all-in-one computers has 2 USB ports on the side. And you got to figure this is a small case, so it cannot have as many ports as a desktop computers. And as Tom was saying, on the back, you usually find your HDMI extra ports and maybe a RCA port for hooking up additional devices like headphones or whatever located on the back. But you got to look at, they may be on the side. I believe one of my all-in-ones has a port on the side for plugging in headphones. USB. Okay, USB is not United States Postal Service. One of the things we're all concerned about in any computer, whether it be an all-in-one or a desktop computer, is loss of power. And we know loss of power can seriously damage our computers. So advisable to everyone, I would advise you to hook up your computer to some type of universal power supply. And they are very easy, very cheap and easy to get. In fact, I think I have at least 3 of these in my house. They were under $100 at Costco. I have one on the main computer that I'm working on right now. I have one on my computer downstairs. My home security system, which includes my cameras and everything, is also hooked up to USB. So if I lose power, at least for about an hour or so, I still have power to my devices. And if I get a spike in electricity, it's not going to damage my computer. This may be outside of what I'm talking about, but this was when I was going to research this project. This is one of the things that came up. In conclusion, all-in-one computers, many have useful features, depending on what you're looking for. They're compact in size. They take up less space in your desk, a lot less space than a tower computer. Some of them may be pricey, and we talked about upgrading. We know that it's not very easy. We said they're difficult to repair. Most of them don't have some type of optical drive, so you have to find some other way of loading your software onto it. Upgrading may be difficult, sometimes broken, and it must be replaced. You must replace everything. And if this comes to the case where you can't replace it, research, get a new one. Upgrading here again, memory RAM, SSD, or hard drive. And I'm sort of repeating myself again. All right. If the user has to roam around various places with a computer, then these AOLs are easy to move around. Like you can move from one desk to the other desk and not worry about hauling around a lot of extra devices or peripherals. Conclusion. All right. Members helping members. I think that's what our club about. Spend money. I think that's the underline of our motto for the club. So what all-in-one computers out this whole presentation. If you want to go out and spend some more money, buy yourself an all-in-one computer. If not, stick with what you got. Go to a laptop or an iPad. All right. Some of the recommendations I ran across as I was putting together this presentation was the HP Envy 34-inch curve. As I mentioned before, some of these computers you may find have a curve type monitor. The good thing about a curve type monitor is you can almost put two programs on the screen at one time, but you can do this with most with Windows 10. One of the other ones, which is the one I showed, which is the HP 27, that's the one that was in the video at the beginning. And this is another one of the most popular ones right now. As you can see, all the ports are in the back of it. ASUS has one out, and it's fairly cheap. This is one of their most popular ones. I didn't have a model number. And Lenovo has one out. But there are other brands available. The bad thing about these all-in-one computers here, again, they all have their own problems. They're all could be easy or difficult to use. But it all depends, like I said, what you're looking for in an all-in-one computer. Now, as I said, bigger is better. This is one of the Envoys or HP Envies, 32-inch AOIs. You can see it has a 31.25-inch screen, webcam, home. But what does it cost? Do you really want to spend that much money for a laptop or an all-in-one computer? Bobby's shaking her head no. But they can get expensive. All depends on what you put in it and how much you want to pay for it. All right. Any more questions? Unmute if you have questions.
Yeah. JJ, did you consider, or have you done anything with minis? You know, you don't see them a lot in PCs, but Apple's got a mini out. It's had a mini out for a long time.
I looked around. I have not looked at them. I've looked at them, okay, but I haven't considered purchasing one. I was thinking about getting one and putting in the basement for my server, but being that I had a couple of extra computers not doing anything, I just turned those into home servers from actually my Plex server for all my movies. But
I was thinking of a mini as an alternative to an all-in-one because it gives you the operating part of a computer in a small box. And
they're very small. Only thing you have to look for a monitor and get a keyboard and mouse for them. They don't take up much space.
Right.
Like I said, I've been into a couple of Zoom meetings where they talked about them, and they are becoming popular. But it all depends on what you want. And the thing about a mini also, it's sort of like a small laptop computer. The everything you need, you can upgrade them for the RAM and the memory. It's like but like I said, they're easier to get into than a all-in-one computer. Any other, Bobby?
How heavy is the 24-inch? You said the 32 was like 40 pounds. I carried around a computer that was 40, or not a computer, an accordion, back and forth to school. But, I was young then. I'm not going to move. It looks like it takes up less space, but you better have a space picked out. But the 24-inch is still, it sounds like it's just really heavy.
I should have weighed mine. I have one downstairs, which I'm going to show you a little bit later on. And I'm going to say it weighs at least about 15 to 20 pounds, or maybe a little bit more. The one that I had to take to the shop, get it fixed, I'm going to say that weighed close to, I don't know, it was heavy, close to 30 pounds. Yeah, and it's a 27 inch, or actually it's a 27 inch, yes.
I
But
think
yeah.
that's really heavy. Of course, I'm used to moving around a laptop, and I found that I like a laptop because I can move. I don't have to have computers all over my house. I can, oh gee, this one is updating, so I came in a different room. I have Phil's old laptop that I use for Zoom meetings that works really well. And this
Yeah, I
other
had, well, very few
I was
people
just
know,
saying,
but
yeah, the one
when
that
I
I
when I was working for Atari at the Atari shows, Atari back in the mid 80s had a laptop computer, and it wasn't a laptop. They called it a luggable.
Mhm.
Because
They
it
were
was so
7
heavy.
pounds.
Yes, it was, but it was more of a luggable than a laptop. And if you
Yes.
take something like that and put it in your lap for a while, your lap's going to start hurting you. All right.
Am I
Anybody else?
dating myself if I remind everybody about the original Compaq,
Oh yes, I know.
which was the size of a small suitcase?
Was Osborne or something like that, had a couple of them float out, and yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
My
remember.
Model 3 Radio Shack is sitting here in a great big suitcase that actually Howard built for it so that I could take it back and forth, and we put runners on it. That was one heavy little item also to lug around.
Well, the thing about laptops, and over the years, they have gotten smaller and a lot lighter. And you think about technology has gotten smaller and a lot lighter also. So, you know, but these all-in-one computers, here again, all depends on what size of monitor you get, and what do you want inside of it. But they can get pretty heavy. All right. Any other questions?
Does
I
it do
think
all
one
the
of the
things?
things that, go ahead, Bobby.
Oh, I think we're going to say that. Does it do all the things? And if you do word processing, if you do photo shopping, if you do, you know,
They are good.
design buildings.
They are good at pretty much anything normally that you want to buy. Photoshop, PowerPoints, Lightwork, stuff like that. But like I said, if you want to get into some hardcore gaming, you may consider something a little bit more powerful. The one that I had, the one I had to take into the shop, I basically, when I took it in the shop, I had to put more RAM in it because I also used it for video editing. It came with 8 gigs of RAM, so I had to put 16 gigs of RAM in it, other than taking a hard drive up and putting in a 1 terabyte hard drive. Other than that, it handles video editing and photo editing, which I do. But if I'm getting into something more powerful, larger programs or files, then I'll use the one that I'm working on right now, which I have 32 gigs of RAM, and I have actually a gamer's processor in it and the whole 9 yards. But that's my big HP, and I've had that upgraded since I bought it.
I think
Anybody
one
else?
of my concerns about the all-in-ones, and this may go back to piggybacking on Phil's question, is if you lose a major component, like the screen,
Yes.
you're talking about having to replace maybe the whole
thing.
unit and being without the whole unit while that is done. But
Yes.
if you're back in the old days of a desktop computer,
Not
which
the
are
old days.
now available in much smaller form factors,
Right.
you can swap out the monitor. If your monitor fails, you go to Best Buy or Office, whatever, and swap out the monitor for considerably less than that $2,600 you were talking about.
Yeah.
I guess looking or having had too many meetings with Mr. Murphy, I think in terms of modularity for repair and replacement.
That's one of the major concerns with a desktop. If the monitor quits, you might as well just say replace the whole darn thing. Because as I said, these computers are what you see is what you get. They are mass produced. They don't usually make spare parts for them. So therefore, you know, and if you can find a spare part or something, it's like going to the junkyard and finding a old car with the same parts as yours and be able to fix it. In most cases, unless you're technical and apt, that you're not going to be able to replace it. Some of them have started in graphic cards, so you can't replace the graphic cards. The only thing, you can't replace the CPU in most cases. So the only thing you can actually replace in these computers is basically maybe the memory and maybe the hard drive. That's about it. Anything else other than that, you're looking at a replacement.
Of course, you can make the same argument about most laptops,
Oh, yeah,
but
same thing. Yeah.
but you're not likely to be talking about the same price point
No,
unless
you're
you're
not.
getting a nice high-end gaming laptop.
Laptops, and you got to look at it basically from when I was reading, a lot of the components in the all-in-one computer are actually laptop components because they're so compact, so condensed. So they put them into a all-in-one computer and just give you a bigger screen.
And most of the small form factor computers, you're going to find the same thing, that a lot of them are really designed around laptop parts.
Yes.
They've got two. Matter of fact, I've got to switch off the.
Dave just fell off the screen. Dave, you coming back?
I think he's reaching for something.
Yeah, I'm trying to turn off the virtual background, and I don't remember how to do it.
Beam me up, Scotty.
Go down to stop.
There you go.
Look up, carrot. Okay.
Here's two little mini PCs right now. The top one is really not too upgradable. The memory is not upgradable. The hard drive you can add on M2 drive, but the bottom one is the older one, and that has both upgradable memory and a hard drive that you can replace.
That's about it. Like I said, it all depends. So your biggest options here, again, do you want a full desktop computer? And as Tom was saying, you know, if your monitor goes out on your desktop or your desktop computer, you can go and find a halfway decent monitor nowadays for about $150 or more. I mean, the more expensive, depending on what you're using a monitor for, whether you want a high-end 4K monitor, you're going to spend a little bit more money. But monitors are easy to replace on a desktop, not so on an all-in-one. Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, JJ, I was going to say, build on what Tom was saying. When I was in the market for a new computer, I was concerned about desk space. And at that time, it was several years ago, but they were offering a smaller box, a smaller CPU box.
Yes.
And actually you could mount it. They had a mounting device that you could mount it on the back of the monitor. But it was two separate things. It was a monitor, and then you had your CPU. But it was small enough to where you could mount it on the back of the monitor, so it was off the desk, so you saved your desk space. But on the other hand, if your CPU went out, or let's say your monitor went out, you weren't replacing the whole thing. You just had to replace the monitor, or if the CPU now just replace the CPU and keep the monitor.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you ever saw that kind of a setup.
No, but like I said, what you're saying, though, there are some of them that are so small and thin that you can go back to the older days where we used to have our CPU mount up under a monitor, sit the monitor on top of them. You know, there are some slim lines like that are available. So there's all different types of configurations you can get for a desktop, unlike an all-in-one. What you buy is what you're stuck with. The only advantage here, again, is that, as I said, the power supply itself is not located in it. It's usually that little brick that, you know, plug into the wall and the bricks on the floor or somewhere behind your desk or whatever. And that's it. But the big thing is that it's all combined in one. They are smaller features, and it's basically what you're looking for and what you need when you go out purchasing one. All right? Any other questions?
A little bit off topic.
Go ahead.
DisplayPort ports. Do you have anything to say about DisplayPort?
What do you mean by DisplayPorts? What's available?
I think it's an Apple product, but I think that's available on PCs. It's,
a type of
I thought it
non-Ethernet.
was advanced on HDMI.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, I
you say?
agree with you, Fred.
Hey, JJ, this is Cynthia again. I want to thank you for the time you spent talking on the phone with me yesterday when I was trying to troubleshoot my, my printer. So thank you very much.
Okay. Any other questions?
JJ, could you comment on specifications for a UPS? I need to get one, but I have no idea what I should look for as far as
There are a number of them out there. Like I said, this one I bought. I went through Comcast or Costco up in Kenosha coming back one day, and they had these UPS, and I'm not quite sure. It's on the floor. I can't see it, but they were $99. And I stopped and bought another one. Like I said, I have 3 of them in my house right now downstairs where I have my home security, my security cameras are all hooked up to that. So if I lose power, at least my cameras and my security system stays online. And I have one for actually the other one's in my bedroom where my cable box comes in. So if I lose power, I still have cable internet. So, but
my concern is I have a computer that's fairly new and they're still doing BIOS updates. And if I lose power during a BIOS update, I got a boat anchor, and that's why.
Yeah, I know. Well,
that's when I was working back in the 80s and the 90s. I always hooked it up to a UPS prior to doing a BIOS update. So that was, but you had a good point on power surges too, which I never thought of. But I just wondered for minimum specifications what to
you go online and look them up. Like I said, I think this is called AP something, whatever. I'm not quite sure the name. I can't.
Okay. No problem. That's all right. Thank you.
It's on the floor halfway up under my desk, so I can't see what it is.
It isn't that. It sounds like it's not really that critical.
No.
Thank you.
They're nice though. All right. Let's continue on and finish this up.
Okay.
All right. This is what I got. This is one of my all-in-one computers. I bought this several years ago. This is my HP Sprout. This is the one that I had that broke on me a little over a year ago. And I turned it around and back, and I had no idea how to get inside of it. So I took it out to Zyrtec, and he looked at it. He was surprised. He never seen one either. He looked at it, and a couple days later called me back, said my hard drive is dead. And he said, I can put another 512 in there. I said, no, take it up to, I said, put a SSD in it and put it in 1 terabit. And he charged me for the new drive and service, and it was like a little over about $100 and something. That's compared, they charge $100 just to look at it at the Geek Squad. But he charges nothing to look at it. This is my second all-in-one computer, which is the HP Envy. This is sort of a gaming computer. It has built-in games. The nice thing about this one here, it's got a kickstand in the back of it, and you can lay it down. The reason I bought the Sprout is that I got into some 3D printing and stuff like that, and it's a pretty good processor, really good. And if you back up, the little table on the bottom of it has a 3D printing, 3D scanning, but we'll get back to that later on. Just a little bit more about it. Like I said, as you can see, it's got 2 USB ports on the side. On the other side, what I liked about it also has a slot for a card reader, which you may not find in some all-in-one computers. People who are taking pictures and they have these little cards, memory cards in your cameras, you can slide it in there. But it does have extra ports in the back of the station for HDMI and a couple of other USB ports. And this is the back of it. And like I said, the one that I showed in the beginning also had, as Fred mentioned before, it has internet port in the back. And this one also has 2 USBs and a USB-C. Like I said, this is the Envy. Like I said, it's got a 20-inch portable. It's an Ultra tablet. I use it for gaming. And the neat thing about it, with the kickstand, you can lay it down on the table and play like, it's got Monopoly, which game installed on it. So you can play Monopoly like on the tabletop. All right. So what's next? What's next is basically what am I going to do next as far as a presentation. So in the list that Phil showed at the beginning, people are talking about laptops. So I said I'm going to do a laptop to desktop presentation, a laptop to tablet. These are all the newer things. Everybody's probably got one or two or one of each, and what we're going to see. Laptop versus desktop. Laptop computers we know have less power. They're upgradable. Desktop computers are good for anything. I have a laptop computer, which basically I use for, actually I have a couple of laptop computers. One that you're probably seeing at the meeting, which has the club database on it. And another one I have downstairs I just use for ripping DVDs and VHS tapes. Anybody still remember what VHS tapes are? I've been running across a couple of them. I converted them all to digital. But yeah, that's where my two laptops are used for. My desktops, the one I'm using right now, is the one that I use for presentation and Zooming. I actually have two different webcams on it for playing around with. Actually, I got 3 webcams on it. 2 of them face me at different angles, and one actually faces the computer itself. So when I'm doing a presentation, I can show people my workstation when I'm looking at. So basically what I use that for, and the other one is downstairs, and I use that for the website, the club websites on that one. I have too many computers in my house. Another presentation I was talking about doing here again is laptop versus tablets. Few people are going to laptop. Laptops are nice, but they're all-in-one computers, like we're saying. And I recently, last year, I purchased the new iPad Pro. And to tell the truth, I'm using that more than my laptop. So it's really nice. But I'll do a presentation on that eventually later on. And then Mac users, Mac versus PC. Somewhere in my house, I do have a Mac. I haven't used it in years, so I might do a presentation on Mac versus PC. There was a presentation by APCUG last week on Mac computers. I don't remember if I seen any of the members of our club members there, but I learned a little insight about Macs that I didn't know about.
Yeah, I was at that too, Judge.
Okay, yeah, I saw you, Phil. You were there. And this is not my cat, but she's asking if anybody got any questions, and I'll ask the questions after I finish up this. And here again, our club is helping seniors spend money. We are a computer and technology club, been around since 1983. My resources for this particular presentation was YouTube, Google Graphics, HP website for the videos. The presentation was done on a Microsoft PowerPoint. The video animation was done on Doobly Animation, and I'm using an HP Android desktop 795, which I've upgraded over the years.
And now, folks, that's it for Broadway. Good night to all of you, and good night, Mrs. Calabash, wherever you are.
That's all, folks.
Oh. Hey.
Thank you for listening. Keep on clapping.
Thanks, JJ. Thank you very much.
Thank you, JJ.
Yep. Before we call it a day, anybody have any other questions or news you want to share?
Any last questions? I'm looking forward to seeing some else in presentation. I enjoy doing these darn things. I'm going to say it took me about 2 weeks to put it together. A couple of times I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning because I thought of something new to put in it. But that's also the way I do the newsletter. When I do the newsletter for Mike, I'll come with an idea. I'll go upstairs and wake up, go on the computer, spend about 10, 20 minutes putting in the idea or question, and that's it. Bobby, you had your hand up.
I was just going to say, I mean, one of the things you talked about was repairing with the computer that I was asking about before. I hadn't forgotten, but you used to get manuals with your computer. 10 years ago, this manual has to be this thick.
Yes.
And it's on my computer, so it's not. but how to do everything. We used to replace screens. We used to replace everything on a laptop because I used a laptop when I took it back and forth to the office and thought, oh, gee, I don't need a laptop anymore. I happen to be a laptop fan at this point where I wouldn't get anything else. But the information that is in this manual is unbelievable. Just not how to take the battery out.
I know, you get things nowadays, and you're lucky if the manual's in English, in some cases. I had that problem one time. I bought a brand new camera, and it came with 3 manuals. One was in Portuguese, and I went on vacation, and I grabbed the wrong manual. And when I got on vacation, I found out I couldn't read Portuguese.
Well,
so now when I get something that has more than one manual,
English
I throw the
letters.
other ones away.
We
Was
have
it
a
English letters?
we have a
It
cat
could have been
tree.
in Russian, Hebrew.
We have a what?
Fred has fallen on the floor.
We have a cat tree, and I'm going up the cat tree.
Aha.
I have a question. It's off topic, but I'm looking for an app for my phone to keep track of medical situations like vaccinations and surgeries and things like that. Has anybody got any recommendations?
Not offhand, but do you have ICE in your computer, on your phone?
It's an Android. I don't understand the question.
ICE is a program usually for the iPhones or Androids. It's called In Case of Emergency. And usually it shows up on an unlocked screen where, here again, if you have your phone with you, your paramedics or whatever can automatically find all your information.
Oh, no, I don't have that.
It's called ICE. I would look it up and find one and put it on your phone.
Okay, thank you.
And what it keeps a track of, whether or not you're diabetic or whatever, what meds you're on and everything. Something we talked about a long time ago, but like I said, find the app for ICE, and I advise you to put it on your phone.
Thank you.
Jerry,
It
I'm
also
not,
can be used as the person to contact to call, because my son is listed under ICE and his name.
Right. Yeah, you have your emergency contacts, what you may be allergic to or whatever, all that's in your little ICE application.
Jerry, I'm not sure that scratches your itch though.
No.
What I'd suggest you do is, it's a good suggestion to put it on your phone, but from what I gather from your question, I would post that question on the internet and see what comes back in the way of apps.
That was a discussion at the Tech for Seniors a couple of weeks ago as well. And one of the solutions suggested there, and I don't know how economical it would be for a single individual, but some of the folks who, especially the ex-military folks in that group who are used to wearing dog tags, talked about creating a QR code and printing it to a dog tag. And that QR code contained their medical information, because they had had experiences going to an emergency room and trying to give the emergency room a jump drive, a flash drive, and the hospital refusing to insert the flash drive from an external source into their computers for fear of infecting their network with a virus. Whereas if they had this QR code on a dog tag, all they needed was the QR reader, which are on many cell phones now, or you can download an app for them. And my question at that time was about how often you would update the information, and if you had to recreate the QR code at a cost every time you did it. But that's another option that JJ and I heard about a few weeks ago. The Tech for Senior presentation may have been recorded on either their Facebook or YouTube pages.
I send out weekly the invite to Tech for Seniors. You can go into their website, and all of their presentations have been recorded. They were this past week up to 50 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but you can go back through all the presentations, and like I said, I invite some of you guys to join us on Monday morning at 10:30 our time. As they said, they start at 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock, they lock the door, so you better get in early. And it's only 1 hour. 1 hour of your time on Monday mornings. It's 10:30.
Yeah, the problem I have a very poor memory. I couldn't tell you when I had a surgery or the last time I had a tetanus shot. So basically, I was looking at it for my information because I keep getting these professionals ask me, well, how long has it been since you had a tetanus shot? Or if they're going to ask me, when's the last time you got this shot or that shot? I don't have a clue. So
I keep a spreadsheet of all my shots. And other than that, like I said, for my own personal purpose, I have a folder on my computer called Health and everything that goes into all my appointments at the VA and everything. As Tom was talking about the QA code, you can either take the QA code, print it out on a piece of paper to wherever your information is located at, put it in your wallet. The other thing I was getting ready to say is, what was it now? I forgot about what I was getting ready to say. Oh, for those of us who have gotten our shots and got your cards, make a copy of your card, print it out, put it in your wallet, your purse. Make sure you have that with you.
Yeah.
Okay. There is some information coming out that they're going to come out with an app, hopefully soon, maybe, for people who have gotten their shots. But other than that, get your shots, be safe, stay safe. All the good stuff that goes along with this virus that we got going on.
Yep.
thank you.
Anybody want a kitten? A few months old.
What
They're
kind of kitten is it?
They're delightful. This one is long hair.
I don't want another long hair. I had a long hair when I was working and wearing suits, and I was looking like a hairy person with a suit.
It's a very
my cat wants another a friend, but I thank you, but I don't want another long hair.
it's extremely lovable.
I love cats.
If you want a cat, consider this one. Give Liz or me a call or an email.
All right.
Thanks, Fred. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming. JJ, thanks very much for the presentation.
All right.
And everybody stay safe, and we'll see you next month.
I will save over another one for the next time.
There you go.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks, JJ.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
JJ. Thanks, Phil.
Leave.